Hello again, it's Elizabeth, and I'm here to show you how we did the, I don't know what that is, the next step in making the book that I'm making out of the roll-off prints from my gel plate, from my butterfly prints. But I did select a cover yesterday, which actually I don't know which way it went together. Oh, this way. Maybe. Okay, it went together this way in the sheet of paper, but it was big enough that I was able to cut it in half and still have enough to make the front and back. So this is the front and this is the back, or this is the front and this is the back. I haven't really decided which I like better. But what I did yesterday, without your knowledge, or after I had my video finished, I glued the cardboards that I had cut by 5.5 by 8.5. I glued those to the half sheets of the gel print that I had selected for the outside and the one that I had selected for the inside cover. So I had something that looked like this. I trimmed it out so that it's like 5/8 of an inch from the edge, and you can see it's not perfect. That's that's kind of wonky trim there, and it's not perfect, so it's it doesn't have to be. Okay, so the next thing that we do is we trim the corners, and when you trim your corners, you do not want to trim it right up against the board. You want it to be about a little bit more than the board's thickness away from there. So the board's thickness is 1/8 of an inch, so we have a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch if we measure it from the corner of the board to the edge of the paper there. So this distance here is a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. That'll give you really pretty corners when you are turning it in and then turning the next piece in as well. Standard book making procedure for making your corners is to do it this way, unless you're going to have your corners covered, and then it's a whole different thing, which I think is called, oh crap, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a half cover or 3/4 cover or something like that, where you put like reinforcements for the corners. Now you could do reinforcements on this as well. There's nothing that says you can't. And sometimes you can save those little cutoffs that you made and make little Christmas trees out of them. They do stack up pretty well because they're little triangles and they've all got color on them. So, they're kind of fun things. You could make little earrings out of them, anything you want. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to glue the top and the bottom. Now, the reason I do the top and the bottom first is that when you fold this and then you fold the next side to it, there's going to be a little tiny bit of a lump at this corner. So you want your lump to be on the parts that's going to be the back or the front edge of your book. You don't want it on the bottom of your book, because if you got a lump on the bottom of your book, then it may catch on the shelf or whatever that you're putting it on. At least that's the theory, and that's the way that I work on it. Now this paint on this one is very thick, and I had a little difficulty folding it around the edge without, sometimes it cracked just a little. So I am repairing that by putting a little extra paint on it after I get it totally glued, because if you're going to glue it, you want to glue it first and then put your paint on afterwards. Because if it's wet, if the glue wets it, then you re-wet your paint, it can mess it up. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to hit the camera. So now I'm putting the glue on the top and the bottom flaps. I'm not even sure which one this is unless I look at it again. I don't want a whole lot of glue. I just want a nice shiny, you can see that it's shiny, look to it. And I can go ahead and put the glue on both before I turn them in. Might need a little bit more for this one because that glue is pretty stiff. Oh, and what glue am I using? Well, I'm using Yes Paste. Yes Paste is a paste instead of a glue, as it says. And it comes in a bottle that looks like this. And you can get it, this is a 2-pound size. You can get it in 1-pound size, and you may be even able to get it in smaller amounts than that. It seems like it's expensive because it's like $29.90. Sorry, can't talk. $25.99 was at Preston Art Center when I purchased this one. And you can get it at Michael, I'm not going to say Michael's. I think it's Hobby Lobby. One of them you can get it at one of those, one of our normal hobby stores, and it may be less. And of course there you could use a coupon. I think I had a discount on this because I think they were running some kind of a sale. And you may be able to get it through Amazon because, you know, you can get lots of things through there. It may cost you more, may not, just all depends. So that's the kind of paste that I use, and the reason I use that is it's a standard paste for bookbinding, again, and it gives you, when I was pasting the board to the paper, and I put the paste on the board when I do that, because you always should put it on the stiffer surface, but when you're doing that, it gives you a lot of movement time. So if your board is shifting on your paper or something, you can actually shift it a little easier than you could with glue. Glue a lot of times will go ahead and dry on you. Now I have to make sure my table's dry again and clean. No paste residues, which I think I do have some. So I have a paper towel here that I keep wet. And just put it over to the side when I'm not using it, and just dry. And I will dry that table too, so that when I put this painted board back down, it doesn't weaken it any. Okay. So I want to make sure that those are nicely down on their edges here. And then I'm going to crimp the corners. And what I do is I use my fingernail to just push that in. And you see how it's open there? Push that in so that it'll cover that corner. So what you're doing really is making this paper go around that corner and then extend beyond, so that when you cover this in like this, you have all of that covered with the color, with your paper. Now, if you don't have the paint as thick as I do on this particular gel print, then it will work a little bit better, but you can see that I've got a little tiny bit of white showing there. That's because the paint has flaked off on that particular corner. I will fix that before I finish this. But each of your corners you want to tuck in like that. You want to crimp them in. I don't know what else it's called. I call it crimping it, because you're kind of pushing that to make it be where you want it to be. Okay, so each one of them. And if you don't want to do it with your fingernail, or if you don't have a lot of fingernails, you can do that with your bone folder. So all you do is you take your bone folder to the outside and kind of just push down and pull toward you, and then that will give you a really nice corner there. Okay? And you can see this one doesn't have as much sticking out as that one does, and the reason is that I cut this one a little bit closer to it. So this one might have been a little bit kind of too close, but it'll work, and this one is maybe a little far, and I could have trimmed it more, but it'll work fine. So we're not going to worry about that. I do need to flatten this out a little bit here, because it seems to have a lot of glue under there. Let's get that out of the way and off my bone folder so that I don't put it somewhere it shouldn't be. I try to be as mindful of where my glue goes as I can when I'm doing this operation of gluing the covers, because if you get glue on the outside of them, it usually will show, and you can see it's so pretty. Okay, so we have glue there, and we have glue here, so I'm just going to fold this over so I'll have a nice clean piece of paper to do my next gluing on. And again, we're just going to spread it all up and down this flap. Get a nice thin coat. You don't want any lumps of glue. And sometimes you have to really be careful because it'll lump right in the part where the, where that board is. So just be careful and kind of get as nice thin coat as you can. Okay, so we'll get that. And I put mine in, my glue into a little like margarine tub or whatever that is. and add a little bit of water to it because I like it a little bit thinner than it comes in the Yes paste. That's my Yes paste. That has a little bit of water. You can see there's a little bit of glue coming out there. I'll wipe that off on the paper towel that I have over to the side. Can you see this? I don't want to get off camera. I think part of yesterday's was a little bit off camera. Sorry about that. Okay, so I can go ahead and glue my other side. We'll keep pressing on this to make sure that it glues down nicely. Okay, so it might be a little bit too much. And when I close my glue up, I always put some wax paper up against the glue container surface, and then another wax paper up against the lid. So I have two pieces of wax paper in between the container and the lid of it, and that lets me open it easily, because if you don't, and you've got, say you've got a screw-on lid and you don't have the wax paper in there, you can have it glues so much to itself, glue to the lid, that it makes it really hard, really difficult to get it out of there. Okay, so this one's the last one because I did do the other three without you, just to make it a little bit less time consuming when we were doing this part. So this is the front cover or back cover. Not sure which. I'll get that out of the way. Make sure that we've got this pressed down really well. Make sure we don't have any excess glue there. And make sure, and see, this one's trying to have the white show again on the corner because of the thickness of the paint that was there. So I'm going to fix that. And the way I'm going to fix that is to clean my fingers first. Get all the glue off my fingers because I don't need extra glue here. Make sure this one's down first, and then we'll fix those corners. Use my wet paper towel, and I use a paper towel instead of a baby wipe. I don't know, it just, it's a Bounty paper towel, and they're really good about not having lint, and I don't know that the baby wipes are. And when I was doing silk screen printing, I found that you didn't want any lint on your silk screen, so I started using Bounty paper towels, and I still use them. I do not get any recompense from Bounty paper towels for saying that. It's just a matter of opinion that I like Bounty paper towels for my artwork, and they are very reusable in that they you can rinse them out. If you got glue in them, you can rinse them out. Now, if you've got paint dried in them, you can't rinse out dried paint, but you could rinse it out if it wasn't dried, and then just reuse them if you want, just like a cloth. And then whenever you're ready to, you can just toss them, or you can save them and put them on as a book cover, because I've done that too. Okay, so we have a little tiny bit here. So I'm going to take my gold, because that's the gold. And this is the blue background, and I believe that is it's probably a combination, but I'm not sure the combination. So what I'm going to do is put out a little tiny bit of this blue over here in the corner on my table, because my table, I can get paint off my table easily. And then I'm going to take the gold and get a little bit of that on the eraser of my pencil, because these erasers, you should never use these erasers for your art. You should always have a white polymer eraser, because these things get hard so fast and they can make marks on your art. You don't want that. Okay, so enough about my silly idiosyncrasies of what I use and what I don't use. So I will look at this, and we do need a little bit of gold there, and that's 2 gold because it's had a little bit of blue underneath of it, so that showed. So I got a little tiny bit of blue on my finger, and I just gave it a little bit of color there, and now it looks like the blue that was already there, and it looks like that was meant to be, or at least in my opinion. Okay, same thing here. Put a little gold down, and I'm going to give it a little tiny bit of blue. Don't know if I have enough on my finger. Yep, I did, and that one might be a little light, so we might need a little more gold. I'm just getting it out of the lid because it's handy. And We don't want the gold to be gold because the rest of the gold, you can see that this is muted and has a little bits of blue in it, and that is actually a turquoise on some of it, but then the blue, the dark blue on some of it as well. There are lots of different colors there. But you can see this one looks pretty good. Get a little tiny bit more of the blue, and I'll give it a little bit more in that corner. Sorry if I'm getting out of screen here. Okay, didn't get a hold of it. There we go. And that's too blue, so we'll wipe that off, give it a little more gold, mix that in together, and you never knew that that even happened if I didn't show you on camera, would you? No, you wouldn't. Okay, that looks okay there. And I just like to smooth that out, make sure that's smooth. Maybe right there. Okay, I'm going to get a little more blue and a little more gold, and I'm going to put a little on my finger. And we're going to get it mixed on my finger. It's called finger painting, right? Okay, so that, it looked like there was a white, but it may have been a gold line there. But anyway, I fixed it anyway, so it looks good now. That corner looks okay, and this corner has a little bit of blue again that's missing, so we'll put a little gold there. And now, it didn't have to have the gold there, but there may have been gold there at some time. It may have been what flaked off. I don't know. So we just mush that around, and we have all of our white spots taken care of. So anytime you have, oh, there's one there on the front of it. And I give it a little gold there, a little tiny bit of blue, and you never know that that was there. But anytime you have, you know, the white showing through from either your paper cracking, the paint on your paper cracking, which is what this did, or, you know, wear and tear, if you want to get rid of that wear and tear, you know, just go back in with a colored pencil, go back in with a little bit of the paint that you used, and give it a little tiny bit of, give it a little love, and make it pretty again. Make it the color that you wanted. If you don't want that color, fix it right there. So that looks like the same as that, and that looks like it's all been, you know, just done to start with on the jelly print. And it might have been, except that somehow it flaked off. Okay, if you have questions about this, you'll need to put them in the comments, because I don't know what your questions are now. I'm not live. Nope. Okay, I go ahead and wipe off this edge here that has all the gooey glue on it. And I'm going to put this away, and then we're going to talk about, I think I've got enough time to talk about the, let's see what time we're doing. Oh gosh, this is going to be the wrong direction. I hate that. Okay, we got 18 minutes on the clock, so we've got 12 minutes to do our signatures and show you how that we punch our holes in our signatures. So I'm just going to put this away, put my 2 pieces of wax paper on my Yes Paste, put this off my desk so that I'll have room, clean up my corner that has the paint on it, and we'll look at our signatures. So paint, go away. Let's do it with the dry one here first. Might shake it a little bit. Don't know. Shake the table at least. Okay, and then we'll wipe that up. And it's almost as if it has never been there. I do get a little bit of a blue sheen to it from the blue until I come back in with the whisk detergent. I can help it. Okay, so throw that away, and now. Okay, I talked with you yesterday about making a hole in the back of my book so that my signatures and my book insides could show through. So I did that without you being here, and it looks like this. I also put the holes for when I'm sewing in my signature, and I made myself a little template, if I can find that. Oops, not there. Come here, you. What's in here. I made myself a little template which has the holes marked that match up with these holes. So each of my signatures is going to have one column of holes there. Okay, to make the holes in your signatures, you open it to the center, and most of you, I think, have probably done this, but if you, in case you haven't, I do it this way. I take my signature, and I make sure it's, you know, even on the top and even on the bottom, and this paint on my fingers has dried, so it's not getting anything messy. And then I put it into the corner of a lid of a box. This box happens to be photo paper. And then everything's lined up into that corner, and then I take my awl, or in this case I took a cork and I stuck a needle in it backwards so that the pointy end, ouch, is on this end, and then I push down through each of these holes, and I make sure I mark my template with a top and a bottom so that I don't accidentally, ouch, turn it upside down, because you might not have these exactly exact. And I also put a lid, some kind of a lid, I think it's probably a wine cooler or something lid. I glued it to the bottom of my cork so that my needle won't go out the back of it, because otherwise it will do that. But you punch through each of these holes that you have marked on your template, and then you come out with your signature, the holes in it. And I've actually, can you see the holes in there? So I'm punching right straight down into that corner. So it comes out, when I punch down into this corner, it comes out the back, the corner of the back corner. See that coming out? So you want to keep your fingers out of that area. Can you see that needle? Yeah. Okay, so that's how I do the punching of the signatures. And I actually did the other 5 for you. This is the last one. That's the purple one. So now I pick out my thread that I want to sew it with. Look at that. That matches that nicely, doesn't it? It's kind of pretty there. Anyway, so I'm going to sew in the last signature first. Get that guy out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a pamphlet stitch here and a pamphlet stitch here. And this one, the one at the top, I'm going to put to the outside of the book. And I'm going to make it a long thread, extra thread. And the reason I do that is because I want to make a fringe on it. And I've decided I like fringes on my books. So I add thread, I add beads and sometimes charms at the ends of it and so on. So that's what I do. So I take my embroidery thread, and I'll make a length of it that I need. So the length in this case is from here to here, from this hole to this hole, top hole to bottom hole, of that set, twice, because we got to go down and we got to come back up, in essence, and then how much ever thread I want to hang down. So this much twice, so I'll have that hung down. So that's all I need for my top signature. And I'm going to I always give it a little extra, because it's always better to have extra than it is to not have extra. And I have 6 of those, so that, and I'm going to cut or take my thread and split it in half. There's 6 strands to embroidery floss. So if I do it in half, then there'll be 3 strands. So I'm going to use 3-strand thread to sew in each of my signatures. So there's one set. I've made 3 of these, so I'm going to cut each of these in half, so that'll be 6. Okay, now for the bottom one, all I need, I'm going to put it on the inside. Why? Just because I've decided to do that. It's just an arbitrary thing. And I have to make it long enough I'll be able to tie it when I get it done. So I'm going to make it about that long. That's 2. And then one more will be 3. So I'm going to sew this whole signature in. And I could have made this all one piece and cut it off and done that, but you know, it's just as easy to do it this way. So I'm going to put this to the side now. I should have all my thread cut. I'm going to take one of these, and I'm going to make it into 3 and 3. 3 and 3. So you see the thread, you can see them against my blue finger there. There are 6 strands, so you're going to pick 3 of them and just pull them apart from the other 3. And if you do it gently and don't like hold it tight, then it's easy enough to do. Okay, so I need to get a needle. I have a needle over here, and let me get the right one. Come here, you. Okay. Now I always use my beeswax on my thread. Now it's not so important for this little teeny tiny thread because the beeswax will help it to keep from, it'll help it go through the holes easier, and it will also help it to keep from tangling as much. But it's not that important on this tiny little thing because you're not going to have very many tangles, plus it's small enough it's going to go through the things. So you thread your needle. Make sure I have 3 there. Yep, 3. Okay, so this one I'm coming from the inside to the outside, and you can arbitrarily do it either way you want, inside to outside, outside to inside. So I'll go into the middle here, and I'll start at the middle hole, and I'll come out and go through the hole in the back of my Kraft-Tex. And I punch these because I like to punch them and then they're round, and they're not going to tear out as easily as they might if they were not. But they shouldn't tear out anyway because Kraft-Tex is really hard to tear. Okay, so I'm coming back through the top hole then. Can you see this? I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can find that hole. There we are. First one's always the hardest. So I came back through that top hole. Then I'm going into the signature through the top hole there. I'm going all the way to the bottom hole here and out through the Kraft-Tex, and then back in through the middle hole to the middle, and then I'll tie it off. And when you come back in here, you want to have 1 thread on each side of your previous of your long thread that went from top to bottom. And there we have it. Come here. And you simply make a overhand knot, and then you make it into a square knot. And they say if you go through here twice, that's called a surgeon's knot, and it's harder to come undone. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I do it anyway. And there we have it. And I'm going to leave those that long because I may want to do something with these in the book as I do it, when I use my book and make my book. Now we're going to get one of the longer pieces of thread and do the same kind of thing on the outside. If I can look at the camera and see if we have enough time. Yeah, we have 27 minutes right now. I want to go ahead and get this one done, and then I'll do the other 5 without you having to watch. Again, I'm peeling 3 of these out of here. I should have done that ahead of time. It would have been a lot easier. 3 and 3. Wax my thread. And this time I'm coming from the outside to the inside. So, oh good, throw your needle on the floor. Fortunately I found it. Threading your needle sometimes is the hardest part, but in this case it's right in there. So we're going to go from the outside to the inside. Again, we start in the middle. So I'll start in the middle here and go through the middle hole in the signature. Come on. You want to work. I know you do. And then we'll go to the top hole. What are you doing there, paint? Come out to the outside, since we're going to leave our tails on the outside. Okay. Go all the way to the bottom hole. Come into the signature. And then go back out the center hole again. And try to be on the other side of the thread that you have there, the long thread. And then when you've done that, you can even these threads up if you want to. See, they're not as long as each other, so this one needs to have a little more pull that way. Because then you'll have plenty of room to put your dangles on. We do the same thing again And I usually try to tie mine the same way, so I tie it with the top. Use the left hand over the right hand. Tie it tight. And you want to check, make sure that you don't have extra thread in there, but you don't. And then once under there, once again under there, and tie that tight. And now we're ready to make fringes on these two threads that we have hanging down here. And we'll go into that later. But you have your first signature in there. When you get the rest of the signatures in there, we'll just look at it real quick. It's going to look something like this. And you're going to have a beautiful book. I'll see you next time. If you like this, subscribe, like it, share it, you know, the whole bit. Give me a comment if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you for watching. I enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Bye now.